Alrighty, so today I'm going to talk about the new sprint season that the format was just released yesterday, and I also wrote down here on the board that show you all the information about this new sprint season itself. And overall, when I look at this sprint season, I know there's going to be a lot of people that will say that, well, whoever's going to crown as MLS Cup champion during this sprint season will have a big asterisk in terms of it because, it's not really a full season as well, and that there's only going to be 14 games that's going to be taking place, and that it feels like a little bit like the MLS's back tournament. And I even hear that there are some people who want the MLS's back tournament back for this transitional period where the MLS regular season will now transfer into a fall to spring kind of format. But in many ways, I think this is kind of the way that I think MLS can only do in terms of making this transition. And overall, it's not really a bad thing when you look at how the format it's going to be. And most of the things that we saw here when it comes to the format is kind of what we expected in terms of the sprint season and this kind of transitional period that bridged the gap into the calendar switch that MLS will incur starting next year. So first of all, as I mentioned, there's going to be 14 games that's going to be taking place in the regular season. It will take place between February all the way to April, and the whole season, of course, will take place between February 2027 and May 2027. Now, in terms of how to qualify for the playoffs, apparently 16 teams will make it to the playoffs. So more than half of the league will make it, and that's a little bit less than what we had right now, where 18 teams does make it into the playoffs. I know obviously there's the 8th and 9th seed they play in the play-in round, but I'm going to count that as them making the playoffs as well. So there's going to be a little bit less of that, and that also kind of eliminates the play-in situation. Now it seems like it's just going to be single elimination for the rest on end, where you have the Western Conference playoff bracket and then the Eastern Conference playoff bracket, and before you know it, we will get to MLS Cup. And I believe there's also going to be, if I'm not mistaken, if they do it this way, that means there's going to be like they only need to do it in 4 weeks. They just pretty much have all the games that's going to be taking place in each week, and next thing you know, we have reached MLS Cup. Now, the other thing is when it comes to the 14 intra-conference games. So, for those that wonder what does that mean? Well, that also means that basically you play each of your in-conference opponents. So, there's going to be no inter-conference matchup. We're not going to have a West versus East kind of matchup in this sprint season whatsoever, and you basically will play pretty much every team in your conference only once, and of course some of those teams that you'll play, you get a chance to play them at home, and then some of these teams that you play, you get a chance to play them on the road. And obviously, while that might sound like it create a very balanced schedule, when it comes to the fact that because you don't know which team you're playing at home and which team you're playing on the road, there could be maybe some imbalances, and maybe some teams might get an easier schedule knowing the fact that they get to play at home against an easier team or play against a tougher team, and then on the road they get to play against an easier team. Or is it the other way around? I mean, I don't know what some fans would feel like, the fact that would you rather play against some of your tougher opponent at home, or you rather face them on the road. I think it's probably going to be the first part, where I think fans and teams rather play against some of those tougher team at home, because you have that home field advantage, and we know in this league home field advantage is still a really big thing in this league itself. But again, despite that, we already know that the top 8 team from each conference, of course, will make it. Now, the CONCACAF Champions Cup spot, that will still be impacted in terms of this sprint season. So, apparently, the CONCACAF Champions Cup spot, the top 5 team or not the top 5 team, I'm sorry, but there's going to be 5 CONCACAF Champions Cup berth that will be up for grabs in terms of the sprint season. Most likely what I'm thinking is the fact that the team that won MLS Cup is going to get that CONCACAF Champions Cup spot. Maybe the runner-up might also get it as well. And then also you might have the Supporters Shield winner as well. They didn't mention the fact that whether the Supporters Shield is going to be awarded during this sprint season. I think most likely it's going to happen because it is still a season. So I think that might be awarded as well. And then you have the top 2 best team, or at least the next best team, depending on which conference win the Supporters Shield, is going to make it to the berth for the CONCACAF Champions Cup. That's just kind of my prediction of how they're going to award it. Now, the top 9 teams from each conference will also qualify for the Leeds Cup as well. I'm very fascinated to see how the Leeds Cup is going to happen in 2027. I wonder if it's going to be still in the same situation where it's kind of like taking place around July and August. And if that's the case, then this could be a huge disadvantage for MLS team, knowing the fact that it's still going to be early into their season, even though I know the sprint season is only like there's like a month and a half when it comes to off season to bridge into the new fall to spring format that MLS is adapting, but it's still early season in my opinion, so that should be very interesting to see how that, of course, will work. And then, of course, each of these teams will, of course, have 7 home and away game. And then, following the conclusion of the sprint season, we, of course, will have the new season that, of course, is part of the new format that MLS is now going to a fall to spring kind of format, adapting the same format to pretty much a lot of the big European league is going to happen. It will start in July, and then we, of course, will have the winter break, which will take place between mid-December all the way to early February. That's also kind of a time where there's been hint that maybe the Leeds Cup next year is going to be taking place, because that's a lot of dead time in between games, that is, and you can definitely play a low Leeds Cup tournament during that time. Though if they decided to do it then, again, that kind of goes back to what I've said before, that, well, the problem with playing the Leeds Cup during that time is that you can't play Leeds Cup game in these northern market, because it's way too cold. You're just gonna have to play in warm weather market, and this also kind of makes you wonder, with this upcoming edition, with some games that's going to be taking place down in Mexico, that is the Leeds Cup. Well, we definitely see more of that. They decide to move the Leeds Cup during the winter, because during the winter down in Mexico is still pretty warm enough that they can, of course, have games there as well. So it'd be very interesting to see how that, of course, would work out during that dead time, because I'm pretty sure they're going to have to come up with something to pad along with that dead time. That is just way too long of a time to not have any MLS action, and it's almost kind of like around the same length as you would see in an off season in MLS, that is going to be smack down right there around mid-December all the way to early February, that is. But either way, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this sprint season? Do you like the format that they decided to do? Do you hate it? Do you think that they should change something, or maybe do you wish that they, of course, brought back the MLS's back tournament that we saw back in 2020? But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I, of course, will see you guys next time.